Good morning. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on Indian pharma industry performance for the month of August. Today, we will be covering some interesting areas. The most wanted thing which most of the people want to know is the updates on the sitagliptin market, post the generic launches, how the sitagliptin market has behaved. Then we will look at the IPM therapy performance. We look at the overall performance of the IPM as well as how the growth drivers have behaved. We then look at the top 40 corporates and top 40 brands. We discuss the summary of whatever we have presented. And then we will also be looking at an interesting discussion with Mr. Amrit Medikar on evidence-based marketing for gaining market leadership. So we start with the updates on the sitagliptin market. As we had seen last time, sitagliptin generics entry into the market was seen as a great opportunity for many of the players. We saw almost 85, 87 brands being launched in the month of July. So we thought of looking at how did the market behave in the month of August, how many more brands were launched in the month of August. So if I were to look at the number of launches that have happened in the month of July, close to 89 launches happened in the month of July. However, the number of launches which came in the month of August were only 7. So net, including the innovators, today we have close to 100 brands, generics plus innovators operating in the market today. If I were to look at the MAT value, obviously the innovators would be having a higher market share, but the incremental value that the generics have brought is around 20 crores, is mostly by the ones which were launched in the month of July. The brands which were launched in the month of August, typically if you see, they have not even garnered a value of even 50 lakhs. So as I had discussed in the last session, it is your first mover advantage or the first mover entry guys. They are the ones who actually end up making a difference or actually end up making a lot of taking advantage of the opportunity faster. It's very difficult for the players which enter the market later on to grab the market share or make the most of the generics opportunity. Today, for these 100 brands, how many companies are operating in the sitagliptin market? Close to 32 corporates are operating in the sitagliptin segment today. So this was something at a MAT level because I looked at the MAT value. But to understand exactly what is happening for the month, how much shift has happened from the innovators to the generics, we really need to look at the August data. So if I were to look at the August month value, it is not July and month, the July and August value, it is only value for the month of August. DAPA and Sita combinations never existed for the innovators. So if you see in case of DAPA, the July launches have around 84% of the DAPA, the Sita segment, whereas August launches have around 16%. If I were to look at the value part, combinations have a slightly lesser shift from the innovators to the generics. Planes have a slightly higher shift from the innovators for the generics. However, this shift, this is like 92 and 8%, 89% innovators and 11% is the generics. This shift actually becomes more prominent when we look at the quantity. When I'm talking about quantity, we are talking about the absolute number of tablets consumed, which gives us a fair idea about how many patients have shifted from the innovators to the generics. This shift also may not be from the innovators to the generics. It may be actually the size of the pie has increased. And in that increased size of the pie, innovators manage to have a lesser market share or innovators manage to have lesser patient share and the generics manage to have a higher patient share. If you see, it is in the plain segment that the capture of the market has been relatively stronger by the Sita segment. Now, as we had discussed last time, it is very difficult for the patients to be shifted from the innovators to the generics. However, good number of patients shift from the sulfonylureas to the gliptins because of the price advantage. Now, this shift from the sulfonylureas to the generics, this advantage is something which these generic guys have managed to take. Then we try to also look at overall impact. Now, when we're talking about Sita losing its patent, Sita going off patent, it's a big opportunity. And as we had seen in the past, when DAPA lost patent, Wilda lost patent, the market trend actually moved up significantly. What we want to see is, did the market trend move up significantly for the Sita, Sita plus Med, Sita plus DAPA combinations? First, we will look at the Sita plus DAPA combinations, wherein this thing was never there. The innovators never had a DAPA combinations. So how does this Sita and DAPA market perform in the last few months? Though the things went off patent in the month of July, if you see, the Sita plus DAPA market had actually started picking up somewhere from the month of February. And this is where, which is the molecule which came into combinations? It is mainly the DAPA plus Wilda combinations which made a difference to this market. So this upward surge that we are seeing in the market today is mainly because of the DAPA plus Wilda combinations. Of course, after DAPA plus Sita was launched, it definitely saw this type of uptake. However, if you look at the slant of the line, the gradient of the line, it was much sharper for the DAPA plus Wilda combinations as compared to the DAPA plus Sita combinations. Then we also look at how does the scenario look for the DAPA plus planes market. If you see overall the DPP4 inhibitor plane segment, the market has remained relatively steady in the post-COVID times. Of course, there will be certain ups and downs, but since this is a chronic segment, to a great extent, the market has shown a stable linear trend. In the plain segment, it is this blue color line, which is the teneligliptin. The teneligliptin market is the one which has got the highest quantity market share as far as the plains is concerned, followed by the Wilda market. The Teneli market, the Wilda market, as well as the Sita market, now in the month of August have shown a slight downward trend. This may be a typical phenomena, but what is little worrying is the Wilda generics coming into the market, they actually showed a surge in the month of July. But then if the momentum had to be continued and they had to take, the generics had taken the advantage of things going off patent, we should not have seen this type of plateau. I wouldn't even call this a plateau. This is a slight downward trend that we are seeing in the market. So a little concerned because ideally this line should have moved up significantly, which has not moved up. If I were to look at how does the scenario look in the combinations market, in the combinations also, for the month of August, there's a slight downward dip for the overall DPP4 inhibitors combination segment. And if I were to look at the Wilda, in case of combinations, it is the Wilda segment which has the highest quantity market share, followed by the Teneli segment. Both of them have shown a downward shift, but at the same time, even my Sita plus Med combinations have gone down. Ideally, this market, since a lot of generics have entered the market, there is a lot of noise level that is being made in the market. Ideally, this line should have not shown a plateau or a slight downward trend. Now, sulfonylureas is a relatively bigger market. So if I were to look at the impact of sulfonylureas, impact on sulfonylureas, the loss of sulfonylureas would be slightly lesser in the terms of absolute quantum, looking at how big the market is. If you see, the sulfonylurea is traditionally following a slightly downward dip trend. Now, this is quite natural because a good number of gliptins are now becoming affordable, and a good number of patients are shifting from the patients who are eligible for taking gliptins are shifting from the sulfonylureas to the gliptins. Now, if I were to look at this shift in terms of planes and combinations, the planes, the consumption is relatively, it's a glimepiride plus metformin combinations which are higher in number, and they are showing a little downward trend. If I were to look in terms of ratio, what is the ratio shift? Then we have looked at the sulfonylurea to DPP4 inhibitors ratio, how it has changed. In August 21, the ratio was 69 to 31, whereas in August 22, the ratio is 66 to 34. Now, this is not specifically Sita combinations or Sita gliptin brands that I'm talking at. I'm talking at in general. So there is a Wilda which is coming into picture, Sita which is coming into picture. But overall sulfonylurea's ratio, which was earlier, I would say 69-30, or I can say it as 70-30, has now gone to 65-35. So this was about the sitagliptin market. So net, if I were to summarize about how the market is performed, the market looked really attractive to start with. Because the pricing was quite affordable. The price of the new molecules was newer brands was almost one third to one fourth of the innovators. However, there may be 100 brands entering the market. The number of patients stays limited. With the limited pool of patients, it is becoming very challenging and very competitive for many of the players to grab the market share. That's the reason why, despite a lot of promotional activities, despite a lot of noise levels, also many companies launching several brands of Sita and Sita Med or Sita plus Dapa across different divisions, still the market is not showing that steep upward trend line. Is the patient population remains limited, and it's just the patients are getting shifted from sulfonylureas to gliptins. Beyond that, there is not any major shift that is happening in the patient base. Also, in last time's presentation, we had said that almost 50% of the diabetic population of India stays undetected. So, if I were to take a complete advantage of this price being reduced for certain high-end anti-diabetic products which were earlier not affordable, probably the pharma companies need to invest time and efforts to detect or get this undetected diabetes population on the surface. Only then we talk about the higher consumptions. After the sitagliptin story, we move to the overall IPM performance. If I were to look at IPM performance, if you see for the month of August, almost all the therapy areas have shown a robust double-digit growth. In case of units, the growth may be single digit, but if you see in the last few months, the what to say, the permission to take price hikes, slightly higher price hikes has come into the picture, and a good number of companies for the month of August have shown a good price-driven growth. That's the reason why in a good number of therapy areas, we are seeing a good double-digit value growth. But I wouldn't push everything on value itself. I would say there is a storyline even in terms of value volumes. By same time last year, what had happened is the entire COVID influence or COVID effect had waned. By July, August, things were back to normal. Majority of the therapy areas had started showing the normal, what to say, seasonal trend lines. That's the reason why, if I compare the performance of the market in terms of value as well as units, the market has shown a good, well-balanced growth. If I were to look at growth drivers for the month of August, the growth drivers are well balanced. A new introduction contribution has come down slightly. I would say to a great extent, this new introduction contribution can be attributed to the anti-diabetes segment, where a good number of activities were seen in the Sita segment. But a significant chunk goes to the price-driven growth. At the same time, the volume-driven growth also stays on a positive track. If I were to look at the similar picture at a MAC level and for the month level, usually when we look at the growth drivers across different therapy areas, we see average price-driven growth, it is somewhere in the range of 5 to 5.5%. Whereas at a MAT level, certain therapy areas like gastro, respi, pain, ophthalmology, they have shown a higher price-led growth. If I come down for the month of August, I think all the top segments or majority of the top segments have shown a very good value-driven growth. At the same time, even the volume-driven growth stay quite optimistic. In the anti-diabetes segment, I would say it is the new product-driven growth, which is on a higher side, reason being the Sita market. Then coming to the top corporates and top 40 corporates and top 40 brands. In the top corporates, because of the NLEM part, majority of the corporates which had a portfolio which is there in the segment wherein they have got permission to take a good price hike, they have shown very good growth. Prominently among the top 20 companies, the companies which really stand out with a double-digit value as well as unit growth are Mankind, Cipla, and Glenmark. Then when we look at the next 20 companies, companies like FDC, Laranon, Apex, Boehringer, if you see these companies are also the ones among the top 40 which have shown a robust double-digit growth. Coming to the top 20 brands, GSK, USV, and Abbott, they stay firm in their rankings 1, 2, and 3 at a MAT level as well as for the month of August. And if I were to look among the next 20 brands, we see a substantial number of brands who continue to have a robust value as well as volume-driven growth in this segment for the month of August. So net, the top 20 companies, the top 40 companies, the top 40 brands have really shown, or majority of the top 20 companies, majority of the top 20 or 40 brands have shown a really good growth, which has boosted the growth of the overall Indian pharma market. So overall, if I were to summarize, the initial surge of new introductions and the quantity pickup in the sitagliptin market seems to have plateaued in the month of August. And this may be because of the limited patient population available for the consumption of almost 96 new brands that have entered the market. Also, if I were to look at the shift, there is a gradual shift seen from sulfonylureas to DPP-4 inhibitors over a period of time. Majority of the therapy areas in the IPM show a robust value and unit growth, indicating strong positive trend lines in the coming months. One point I missed, I just now I recalled I missed making this statement. So I go back to this slide. Is if you see now, it is the gastro segment which has moved to the number 3 segment. Actually, even I was a little surprised when I saw this because I did not expect the anti-diabetic segment to go down one level. But then anti-diabetic segment has gone to the number 4 position and gastro segment has moved up. So I say the acute therapy, now we have among the top 3 therapies in the IPM, 2 therapies fall in the acute segment. Even in the gastro segment, the PPIs have actually driven a significant amount of growth in the market. So this was all from our side as far as the performance of the Indian pharma market is concerned for the month of August. Now we take you to a very exciting journey and exciting discussion with Mr. Amrut Medikar on how evidence-based marketing has helped in gaining market leadership for some of their prominent brands. So over to you, Richard.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Opinions That Matter. Today we get an opportunity to speak to Mr. Amrut Medikar, who's at the helm of operations for Vocard India. Sir, welcome to Opinions That Matter. I'd like to talk about Methicobal today. The brand has been around for many years now, and if I understand this correct, we are the ones who have created the concept of methicobalamin in the market. Please tell us about the journey of Methicobal in India.
So essentially, it's an interesting question to answer, and Methicobal has been there in the market for the longest time, I think. The first brand to enter in the market. And it all has been through effective communication, which is done by the MRs in clinic. And more importantly, the clinical experience of the doctors, which they have got. Most important is, since this was the first product, the establishment of concept happened via a lot of doctor group meetings, and most importantly, the PMS trials that we started in India, because it's a global brand. It has been sold by Eisai the parent company for almost 37 countries. And their experience of building this brand across geographies and globe has been pretty instrumental in establishing this concept backed by solid data. So I think safety and efficacy that we harp on for each of such products which are nutritional in nature and do provide benefits for the patients. If you have sufficient data, I think it helps in the long-term journey for the brand. Now, if you look at a competitive scenario also, there were multiple brands which got launched by different companies, and they did come with a lot of combinations as well, with different types of dosage regimens. However, we have stuck to the original dosage regimen, which is TDS globally. And eventually, we have seen that most of the doctors who switched to other brands also have come back to Methicobal with the solid trust being built over a period of time. So I think if you stick to your basics and principles for the brand and the positioning that we have done for all the three SKUs, the differentiated the communication plank as well as positioning across orthopedics, across neurologist or CPGP segment, I think that also helped us in terms of getting chronicity of prescriptions. So I think length of prescription, compliance of the patients towards the therapy, and firm belief of the doctor. I think these three helped. But as I always say that it is not just the science behind the brand or the right pricing of the product, but what is most important is who is going to carry it. So I think the field played a lot of critical role in the success of the brand because field was enthused, and we did a lot of CME programs, and with those CME programs, the enthusiastic participation from the doctors and the speakers and across panels across the country, I think that built a lot of confidence for our field team to have a very confident conversations with the doctors in clinic, resulting into, I think, what we see today in terms of numbers and also the brand equity.
So you just mentioned PMS. Now, a lot of brands and a lot of companies do PMS. So how are we different from that?
So I think one of the largest group of patients with largest number of centers that we engaged with, and most importantly, it is not about just the data generation, but whether the authentic data gets extracted and finally get published also into the index journal. So I think that's where our journey has been so far, and we are still continuing with that journey even in the 20th year of Methicobal.
So also tell us about the differentiation that you've created for yourselves in the category.
For Methicobal, we as I said that we started with a lot of science, a lot of data generation, and most importantly, the kind of right connector in terms of in-clinic conversations with the doctor, with a huge amount of confidence within team to take this brand forward. So that was one. But beside that, as I said, in terms of product quality, we ensured that we have a longer shelf life. So I think one of the few brands that you can see which is carrying a 3 years of shelf life for the product. So that talks about stability of the formulation. Second, as I said, that the entire process was robotized in terms of manufacturing. So there was absolutely no human touch which was happening. And third is the product has got unsurpassed efficacy data to back it up. So I think science did come to our rescue as far as the product is considered, and most importantly, the physical attributes.
Sir, India is a branded generic market, and in a generic market, positioning is extremely important. Methicobal being an important and leading brand of the market, I want to take your views on positioning.
As you know that we have recently seen the example of what has happened with some of the anti-diabetic formulations, the OHS. We have seen what is happening with sitagliptin now, what is happening with the DPP4s and SGLT2 entire family. So I think a lot of fragmentation is expected right from month one of when the product goes off patent. In this era, you will be forced to create a physical differentiation or emotional differentiation when you are able to get some kind of an anchoring in the doctor's mind. That can only happen if you are able to play differently, either in the physical characteristics of the brand, or pricing, or access to the patients, or a complete 360-degree, patient assistance program if you are able to launch it. So I think something has to play around it. Beyond that, I think in-clinic conversations with the doctors, if you are able to carry some kind of an emotional connect, I think that will go a long way in establishing and memorizing your brand name to the doctor. Otherwise, it is difficult because today, I mean, the other day when I was speaking to a diabetologist, he is listening to 10 different brands of sitagliptin in a day. So how do you expect humanly possible for a doctor when you are able to see only few new diabetic cases to remember exactly your brand and prescribe it? So I think going forward, marketing is all going to center around the right positioning and access to the patient. So I think these two puzzles, if somebody is able to solve it, I think the brand building will become relatively easier.
So last but not the least, tell us about the journey that you envision for the brand in the future.
The long-term vision for the brand would be that currently it is one of the leading brands, and we would certainly look at how do we enhance our market share and become more dominant player in this market, and how do we improve our patient access. So I think it's not just about doctors, prescribing our brands, but we need to ensure that our refill rates are higher, because this is a relatively a chronic therapy as compared to a complete acute therapy. So how do we improve patient access for the patients, and how we are able to service them at the right time? So I think that's going to be critical. So this is what our mission is, and I think if you are able to address this, the dominance in the market and gain of market share will certainly start.
So thank you so much for this interaction. It was a pleasure speaking with you and also knowing the science and the efforts that have gone behind Methicobal. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to our audience for joining us today morning. Have a great day ahead.